Okay, so these ones are intersections outside of a circle. Again, last week, Friday, we went over inside of a circle and on the circle. So secants and tangents can meet outside a circle. The measure of the angle formed involves half the measures of the arcs that they intersect. Okay, so in words, if two secants, a secant and a tangent, or two tangents intersect in the exterior of a circle, so again on the outside, then the measure of the angle formed is 1/2 the difference of the measures of the intercepted arcs. Now, difference means you're subtracting. Okay, so when we had an intersection inside of a circle, we added. Now that it's outside, we're going to subtract. Okay, so with this first one, in my examples here, to find angle A, I would take these arcs intercepted here, so arc DE and BC, and I would subtract them and divide by 2. Okay, so I would have the measure of angle A. I would take the larger arc intercepted. Okay, so this larger arc, that's the furthest one away. So DE, subtract your smaller arc intercepted by those two secants, which is BC, and divide it by 2. Okay, so it's the larger arc minus the smaller arc divided by 2. The one further away from the angle minus the one closest to the angle. Okay, in the next one, this one is a secant and a tangent. So again, a secant is a line intersecting the circle in 2 spots. A tangent is in 1 spot. So here this secant hits your circle at B and D, and this tangent intersects your circle at point C. So again, we have this intersection on the outside, and we want to find angle A. So you're going to take the furthest arc intercepted, so that would be CD or DC. Okay, that arc right there. And again, you're going to subtract the smaller arc, and in this case, that would be BC. Now, they both do share point C, but you're still taking that larger arc, subtracting the smaller arc, and then dividing by 2 to get that angle. Okay, so we have the measure of angle A equals our larger arc DC minus our smaller arc BC, then divided by 2. Okay, then the last one here are 2 tangents. Okay, so this first tangent hits the circle at point B. This second tangent hits the circle at point C. So again, we're looking at the arcs intercepted by these 2 lines. So we're going to take this larger arc all the way around the outside here. Okay, so that first arc, the larger one, again minus the smaller one formed by those intersection points. Okay, so again, to find the measure of angle A, we're going to take this larger arc BDC and subtract the smaller arc BC and divide by 2. Okay, so in all 3 of these cases, you're doing the same thing. Okay, if you have an intersection on the outside, you're going to take the larger minus the smaller, divide by 2. So in general, the measure of angle A equals the larger minus the smaller divided by 2. Okay, so take your larger arc minus the smaller arc, divide it by 2. Okay, questions so far before I start some examples? Okay, first example here looks like this one. Okay, I have two tangents. And I want to find the measure of angle L. Okay, so that's this angle right here. I'm given arc HK, but I need to find arc HJK first so that I can use that to find angle L. Well, if HK is 102, to find HJK, I'm going to take 360 minus the arc I already know. So that arc HJK is 258 degrees. So now that I know the larger arc, I can find the measure of angle L. By taking that larger arc measure, so 258, subtracting the smaller arc measure, 102, and dividing it by 2. It is 78. Okay, questions on the first one? All right, then number 2, we want to find the measure of arc CD. So this time we're not finding the angle, we're finding the arc. Okay, that's this arc right here. We want to solve for that arc measure. Now my intersection is between a tangent and a secant. Okay, so that's like this one right here. So we're just going to use the same formula. Okay, so where it says the measure of angle A, we'll plug in the measure of angle A. Where it says our arc, our larger arc, okay, we can just plug in the arc or we can plug in an x value, then subtracting our smaller arc and dividing by 2. Okay, so what I have here is 56 is equal to our arc DC, or x if you prefer x, minus our smaller arc, which is BC, that's 95, and that's over 2. And what I want to do now is solve for that arc measure. Okay, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. Okay, because I'm trying to isolate that arc DC, I'm going to add 95 to both sides. Okay, and that will give me the measure of the arc I was looking for, which is 207. Okay, so again, just like on Friday, you're just plugging in each value into that formula. So if you're given the angle, plug it in for the angle. If you're given one of the arcs, plug that in for one of the arcs. Except for today's, it is important which arc you do right first, okay, because you're subtracting, you're not adding. Since you're subtracting, you need to put the larger arc first minus the smaller arc second. Okay? Questions on number 2? All right, do 3 and 4. So you're going to take it Thursday?
You're going to take Wednesday. She's going on the
Monday.
Sorry.
We're not going to the pantry. You're not going to the pantry. So you just said you were going to be gone on Friday. Not Thursday, on Friday.
Going on to see the practice marathon team, even though no one on my team is home. And if I didn't want to go, I just would have my hands. Your shut up president sports
I will trust me. I don't think it just works.
Huh?
If someone don't No, bro. It was so bad.
Yes, we know that.
Half an
Oh
hour.
my god, stop it.
All right, I'm gonna go over these two problems. So, number 3, you're solving for the measure of angle S. So that's this angle right here. So you want to look at your intercepted arcs. So that's this one right here, and this one RT right here. So what I need to do to find the measure of angle S is take my larger arc intercepted, which is 179, subtract my smaller arc intercepted, 71, and divide it by 2. Okay, that will give me the measure of angle S is 54 degrees. Okay, number 4, this one you're looking for the measure of arc XZ. That's what I highlighted right here. So from point X to point Z. This 68 is the measure of angle Y. Okay, it's not XZ. Because you're looking for arc XZ. Okay, so again, I'm just going to use my formula. So my angle measure, which is 68, is equal to my larger arc, which is this one right here, of 224, subtracting my smaller arc, which is XZ, and dividing by 2. Okay, from here I'm trying to solve for this XZ right here. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So I have 136 equals 224 minus XZ. I'll subtract 224 from both sides. So I get negative 88 equals negative XZ. Because this is a subtraction sign. that you need to bring down? Nope. Divide by -1 to get the measure of arc XZ is 88. Okay, so again, you're just plugging it into that formula. Your larger arc minus your smaller arc. Okay, questions on 3 or 4? All right, then I know there's not a back, but I do want to show you something on the back really quick that has to do with your assignment. So if you have a circle, okay, and you have 2 tangents, okay, so I have 2 tangents, right? There is, I think, 2 problems where you have to do this. You're given an angle measure. I'll just say it's 20. Okay, so the angle measure is 20. And it asks you to find an arc, but it doesn't give you any of the arcs. Okay, so if I say I want you to find, I'm going to put a point here. I want you to find arc LM. Okay, what I would do is label LM, that's this arc right here, label that with an X. Now if one part of my circle is labeled as X, how can I label that other arc? What if I told you arc LN was 10? How would I find the other arc? What would you do to find the other arc? Not 180. You would take 360 and you'd subtract that, right? So to label this larger arc then, what I would do is say this is 360 minus X. And label it that way. So if you see, there are 2 problems like this on your assignment. If you see those problems, label the arc that you're looking for as X. So whichever one it tells you to find, label that one as X. And then your other arc as 360 minus X. Okay, and then you would be able to set that up and solve. Okay, so I'll just keep going with this example. For this one, I would take my angle, which is 20. I take my larger arc right here, which is 360 minus X. Then subtract my smaller arc, which is X, and divide by 2. Okay, again, I can multiply by 2 on both sides. Now, if I have it minus X and minus X, what does that make? Minus 2X. Okay, subtract 360. So I have negative 320 equals negative 2X. That arc would be 160. Okay, so again, you have at least 2 problems, I think it's just 2, where you have to do this. Okay, and I wanted to show you an example of that before you started your assignment. That way you have it handy. Any questions on how I did that? All right, then get started on your